Welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion, episode number 287. My name is Brando. Excited because there's new Guns N' Roses music. They're still touring. And I am kind of, I don't know why I didn't do this before when GN'R was touring, but let's have fans come on to give their reviews. I've been doing fan obsession segments, but just to have a review episode. We've been doing that, at the beginning. Of course, MetLife Stadium. Where else were they? Where I went, Hershey Park, so Fenway Park. So there are a few places. So now the fourth stop is where Eric and Drew were. So first of all, welcome to the podcast. Thanks, Eric and Drew, for joining me.
You're welcome, Brando.
Yeah, thank you for having us on. This is fun.
Just two regular Guns N' Roses fans hanging out, and I want to get, I'm also a regular Guns N' Roses fan, but just to get different viewpoints, and I find it an easier conversation than on the forums,
Absolutely.
Too much.
Yeah, I've not been on the forums in years.
Myself either. When you had to, I was, but now you don't really need to anymore.
Yeah, that's funny though. That's how I think Eric and I met. I met a lot of great people through the forums, but yeah, that's not really my place these days.
Well, that's interesting that you guys met there, because I've just met some cool people. And I guess that's kind of a good place to start before we get to Comerica Park and where Guns N' Roses just played a couple days ago as we're recording this. If it wasn't for my career, I don't think I would enjoy social media anymore. Yes, even before radio, I was on my GN'R forum because I was also, the dork that wanted to hear the leaks. I heard silkworms years ago. I'm one of those. But at the top of the show, before we get to anything else, just want to say, please follow my new Twitter. Yes, I have a new Twitter, at the AFD podcast, at the AFD podcast. Why do I have a new Twitter? Well, shame on me. I got so excited, and maybe Eric and Drew, this will be part of your experience when you go to a show. Yeah, I'm watching, but I'm also taking some pictures. I'm taking video. More for now the podcast. I wasn't doing it so much before when I was just a kid. Obviously maybe cell phones weren't as prevalent then, but still. So I guess I shared one too many of my own concert videos. I think I shared the debut of or the second time Absurd was played. I think I played a clip of that. The song was already officially out, legally. I don't know if you guys have you streamed it yet. Well, you know what? Let's save it. That's a whole other conversation. And I got a couple of DMCA notices about legality. I'm like, oh, all right, whatever. Sometimes Twitter's stupid. They're gonna remove the video. Fine. I post one more before I go to bed. It was going to be of Axl, I think, talking about the download happening at midnight. I thought that would be cool. With shitty quality, my seats weren't that great. I wake up to your Twitter is now suspended. Oh, that's great. So instead of waiting for the Twitter gods, I want to start a new one at the AFD podcast. So please follow. I would be more annoyed. It's my own fault. I should have been more cautious and not let my guard down. But I would have been more annoyed if I had a ton of followers. If I was Lady Gaga or something. But I didn't have that many. I have a goal, but let's crank them up there. I don't know if you guys are on Twitter. Hopefully, Eric, I see your name. You contacted me through Facebook. I don't know if you have a Twitter.
Yeah, I do Twitter very little. I have all the social medias, and in my line of work where I officiate and hire sports officials, a lot of times I find work through social media. So that's been beneficial amongst other things. But that's one of the positives of it for me.
Okay. Even if you don't use it a lot, just give me a follow, because what happens, Drew and Eric, and I've been honest about this too, and maybe I should get this before we go into Comerica because it's on my mind, is that I want to always, people always look to see who you've interviewed, in the past, and also see the amount of followers you have. So, my Twitter is now less because it's a new one. But the thing that's on my mind, because I forgot, because I'm always honest, I forgot I named Brain all these years ago. Because in the new Twitter, I shared an old clip of me interviewing Jim Brewer a few years ago. And I was talking to him about some of the Guns N' Roses management issues I was having. I don't know if you guys have listened to that episode. yet, or heard me talk about.
I've heard some of it. Yeah.
So I regretted it. So I apologize I don't know if Brain will ever hear this, and he's never on social media, but he was one of the people that came to me after the fact when we heard remixes of songs, and he was talking about that on an episode. Beta calls him frantically because of not his fault or even mine of clickbait that came out about Brain talking about new Guns N' Roses music, which was just clickbait talk for remixes. And Brain was like all calling me all upset. He's like, what's going on? Or like not even upset at me. He was just like, what is his stress level? Like I just did an episode. You guys were cool. What's going on here? So that was like 2 years ago. I forgot I mentioned it. I guess I want to be a hypocrite. So I do sorry, Brain, for naming you all those times, but it just goes to show you with Twitter, with booking guests, I've had these issues for so many years. So that's why it's a pleasure to have fans on, because you guys said there's no pressure, with you guys.
I won't call you angry. Yeah.
I'm frustrated. I guess get frustrated and
yeah, frustrated.
Yeah, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel with all this. I'm having a great time, and I'm the thing I'm upset the most about is that I've seen Guns N' Roses twice already, and unless Atlantic City goes down in price, that's it for me. I'm not going to see them again this tour. It's just too much money and time and all that. So that's why I depend on you, you, Drew, and you, Eric, to kind of see. Look at this. It all has a method to the madness. It's all very fluid.
Well, Detroit definitely went down in price. So,
for sure.
I was hearing that about New York. I met up with my former co-host, current friend Ian Scotto, who I met up at the show, and he waited till the last minute to get tickets, and they were
smart.
He was smart. Mine were left over from pre-COVID. I don't know. I just didn't want to let them go.
Mine originally were. I was supposed to be on a trip at the time of the show, though, when it got rescheduled. So I got a reimbursement. My trip got canceled. I went back to look at tickets thinking, well, maybe I'll go now. And wow, they were substantially lower.
Wow. Smart. Good for you. Good for you. And I think I've said this, it's not a GNR thing. It's just like a concert thing. While GNR says we're effing back, and they are back for now, knock on wood. It's kind of getting scary out there with some of these concerts being canceled or dates being postponed. So
yeah, I just saw Limp Bizkit, I think, canceled their tour, and some others.
Yeah. Tesla. We had Frank Hannon on a few weeks ago, and how excited was he to be on the road? So let's not jinx it. Let's talk about the shows that happened. So you guys, if you're listening on the podcast, you can obviously watch on also the Zoom video that I'm recording on our YouTube channel. But if you're listening, you guys are in separate areas. Drew and Eric are not brothers, I'm assuming, even though all three of us have beards, which is, I don't know. I wish I learned younger in life, like a beard. Like as soon as
the way to go.
I waited too long to be, to fully embrace it. So you guys have been friends for, I guess, how long? You met on the forum?
Almost 20 years, I'd say, right, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time we met face to face was either the 2002 tour or just before that, exchanging bootlegs.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I remember specifically the first time we met. Well, somewhat specifically, I know it was like in Lansing at a restaurant or something, and it was
Pancheros. Yeah.
Pancheros. Yeah. Okay. And we showed up. I had some shows that you were interested in hearing, and you had some shows I was interested in hearing, and we met on the forums and just met up and did a swap. It was great.
Old school. I love that.
Very old school. Trading
the old GN'R bar.
Yeah, that was the name of our forum, the GN'R bar. That's right.
Okay. So this is pre, you're teaching me because I came in.
This is early internet. Yeah,
I love hearing about it though, because that's how diehard the Guns N' Roses fans. That was the only way that we were able to get anything, which is just, now mind blowing that they released a song digitally, willingly on purpose. They did it on purpose.
But Drew's your only guy that's heard it the first time it was played live and the last time it was played live. A short window for that because it's probably going to get played again. But
yeah, I would say I've seen. Well, in 2001, I saw every performance. Well, no, not Rio. I wasn't in Rio, but I went to the House of Blues show, and I went to both of the joint shows at the end of the year in Vegas. So yeah, I was very familiar with Silkworms as it existed, and now it's the new single 20 years later. So That's
So
kind
maybe
of
let's start there, because since you saw silkworms in person, and Eric,
cool.
I'm assuming you were well aware of silkworms.
Yeah.
Uh, what did you
My,
think?
my take of it, at the time was just hearing it on the boots. I would depend on people like Drew and the other people that heard it live, because it wasn't as strong as some of the other ones in my opinion, when you heard like the House of Blues bootleg from back in the day 20 years ago. So I asked the guys that went there live, did it sound better live than does the bootleg not do it justice? And they said, yeah, it's a much better song live
I
than
still
what you're
think
going
it
to hear on
sounds
that
better live.
crappy boot.
I think that's always the case. I think live always sounds better than the bootleg. That's kind of, you get the bootleg. It's a bootleg for a reason. You don't get it for, I think, the quality. You get it for the enjoyment of it and maybe the memory of it if you were there. So that's why I always tell people, and I'm always wary even when I was posting those videos that destroyed my Twitter, was it's not the best quality, but it's sharing a moment. It's sharing a moment with other people, and I think that's the best part of doing it. So, so Drew, so I guess I'm assuming Drew and Eric, you guys kind of you like the song, but maybe it wasn't your favorite, the Silkworms. And by the way, opinions are allowed. You don't have to, be a
I
GN'R.
love it now. I like it much more 20 years later than
Well, that's where
I
I'm
did.
going to it. I'm going because I did not. I'm like silkworms.
mean-
That's just what is that? And then I hear, and I've talked about it already, but absurd. I like it. So what do you guys feel?
I mean, the first time I heard it, yeah, was 5:30 a.m. on January 1st. I mean, that show started at 3:35 and ended at 5:35. I walked out the doors of that show soon after Silkworms, and it was daylight out. It was a crazy night.
And now they're starting in daylight. They're starting it.
That was a first. I'd never seen.
Yeah.
I've seen like 20 shows. I've never seen them start.
Isn't
daylight.
that so weird? That's
Yeah.
so weird.
Yeah, but so I remember seeing that song. I mean, that whole show had a feel of kind of being like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, was how I still think of those shows. Because I mean, at the time, Axl had kind of become this mythological, entity. No one had seen him in 8 years or anything. To be at a show at 3:30 a.m. in a little venue, and all of a sudden he was out on stage, was surreal. And then as each new song played, they played, I don't know, 3 or 4 new songs that night. It was hard to even kind of take it in and wrap your brain around it. It was just exciting to hear something new. But I remember with that song, it was so different. Obviously, he was going for something very different, but the sound was very expansive, and it sounded great live, and I think it still does. From the other day in Detroit, it's a song that I think suffers the most. Even with the official release and everything, it just does not capture what that sound is live. I don't know if Eric experienced that in hearing it kind of live for the first time, but it's an interesting song. I don't know. I don't know how catchy it is, or how, I don't know. It's interesting though.
Well, so then you guys had to, you just heard it before the show. Now this was your first time to experience it live. So let's kind of go through the day there before we get to absurd when you're there at Comerica Park. Because I want to get other people's, when you're looking around, if you're looking around to see other people's reactions to new Guns N' Roses music. So where are you both located? And you don't have to, give away your secret location in case if the CIA is listening, but are you both, because I'm not familiar with Detroit. I did some traveling,
Yeah,
and,
neither of us are
summer.
near Detroit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so where are you guys from?
I live in Charlotte now, which is, it's a 90-minute drive east to get to Detroit. So not terrible, but not in my backyard either.
And I'm about an hour or so north of Eric, I'd say. So
Okay,
yeah, so kind of just the middle of the state.
Okay, so you said, and I have no problem making an ass out of myself. You said Charlotte, right?
Yeah, like if you talk to a telemarketer on the phone or somebody, I always say Charlotte, but I'm not from here, but the locals will get ticked if you don't call it Charlotte. So
okay.
It has the accent to it here, but
okay. I want to make sure
I've only lived here 3 years. I'm in the country. It's peaceful. It's close to work, so that's the perk.
Okay, I didn't know there was a Charlotte there. I was just thinking Charlotte, North Carolina. See, it goes to show you. I couldn't find San Diego, Carmen San Diego as a kid, and I still don't know anything else on a map. So, you guys did you guys meet up at the show? Did you guys get lunch beforehand? What?
I never even saw Eric.
Okay.
We had
Yeah.
two
Friends.
totally separate experiences at the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Although
saw
did get
Drew
him water.
at the
I did
very
get him
top
water.
of like section 344 when he was texting me. Said, I'm the only one in the very top. You can probably see me. I looked up and there he was in the top row.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I bought a pit ticket, just thinking this will give me the most leeway to kind of go wherever I want to go. I mean, I'm vaccinated, but I've been pretty hesitant to be out in major crowds, and there were a lot of people there. I was Anyone who was at the show probably would recognize me if I had my mask back on. I wore a mask for a lot of that show. But one thing I did early on in the show, before GN'R went on stage, was I kind of ducked to the upper deck. There were a couple sections up there they didn't sell any tickets for. There was a nice breeze coming through. It was really comfortable. And I watched some of Wolfgang up there.
Okay. Did you get there for Wolfgang, Eric?
Yeah, well, I had the early entry, so I got there like at 10 in the morning and just made a day of it. So I was front and center.
So what was the vibe then? Because obviously, we all know that you're excited. You guys are the Guns N' Roses fans on the Guns N' Roses podcast. Your level of excitement. But what was the vibe of just?
It was a totally different show for me. I kind of felt like the Fred Durst dad vibes, because I had 18-year-olds to my right and 21-year-olds to my left and 21-year-olds behind me. So we're in the pit together talking.
That's what you get
And
front
it's like,
row in the pit, Eric.
right?
Old man.
I'm the old guy, and they're the 49-year-old holding on to front and center, surrounded by all the youth. All the people my age have seats, but yeah, they're drilling me about my tour history, from '91 with Guns all the way up, and it was fun to listen to those guys. Like the kid to my left, who I probably talked to the most, was saying, how his favorite song was November Rain, where you don't usually hear somebody say that that's their favorite song. That's,
I do.
21-year-old college kid.
Oh,
I guess I don't. But, when that song actually came on the set list and played, and I looked at my left and just see him hearing it live for the first time, it was kind of cool to, to see somebody that, I'm more than twice his age and have him hear it the first time. It was really cool.
That's awesome. It's hard to put myself back into that. I've seen so many shows, but I was surprised by how much I enjoyed just being there. I think having a year and a half of not having live music and being out and seeing Guns again, I felt like revitalized watching that show. I was jumping up and down. I was dancing. I was singing along, having a great time, and felt very different than I felt for the last year and a half. It was really, really nice. And I think the whole crowd would kind of had that energy of like just excited to be out doing something.
I agree with that. Like it was excitement for Guns N' Roses, but it was like, are we really we're okay? Because there really wasn't any masks at Hershey Park. Yeah, there weren't a lot. I regret. I'm vaccinated too. I regret not putting on a mask when I went into the merch line, because that was pretty tight. I wore my appetite for vaccination mask some places at MetLife. I almost looked like a psycho just walking around with that mask. But I guess everyone looks like that too. My God. So I've been saying, before we get to GN'R and just go off on whatever tangent there. But what do you guys think of Mammoth? Because I was looking forward to seeing them, and I'm glad I got to see.
I thought they were great. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how Eric felt up there in the front row. I really enjoyed them. Really straightforward rock and roll. I checked out their video where Wolfgang is playing all the different parts kind of before the show. So I'd heard their song. I wasn't that familiar with them, but that was a fun opening act. I've seen a lot of opening GN'R acts. Alice in Chains in Vegas, maybe number one. I mean, that's tough to beat, but Wolfgang was up there. That was a really fun opening act.
I agree. I really liked Wolfgang. I've seen the opening acts. I didn't care for it, like CKY, but I got to see Skid Row. I got to see Blind Melon open for Guns, and I thought Wolfgang was very good. And I meant to listen to some of his stuff, this week prior to the show, and it just didn't happen. So it was all fresh and new for me, and I thought it was really good. And the one song where he said that it was hard for him to get through because he got emotional, I'm assuming it was about his father.
Yep.
and he is crying a little bit during that song. I mean, he was right in front of me, so you could tell that it was tough for him to do that song live.
He's
And
been
he
saying
mentioned
that.
before one of the songs, before he played it, he said, this next song I'm going to play was my dad's favorite. And I remember that stuck with me. I can't remember which song that was, but it was one of my favorites of the set too. It was a really good song. It kind of slowed it down a bit. I'll have to look and see what that was. But part of the fun of seeing Wolfgang, I mean, he's been out with Van Halen and everything, but you know how exciting this is for him. It has to be out there with his own music on his first big tour. And, just like Eric looking at the kid next to him, all excited to see November Rain for the first time. I was kind of excited to see Wolfgang up there kind of doing his own thing for the first time. And I'd seen him with his dad, a few years back.
Yeah, same. And that's why, and I'm glad I posted this actually today. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Tigman, who caught the screen caps, because speaking of, this was on Facebook, not Twitter. He gets so much hate, it seems. I don't know why. I don't know if you because he's great on Twitter, Wolfgang Van Halen.
Oh,
I mean, if you go on Twitter or any social media, there's always going to be haters and trolls out there. But this one, it has a fun ending. So this asshole decided to write to Wolfgang Van Halen. You come across like an immature little child with a bad attitude. Grow up. Never forget, you went straight to touring with GN'R because of your last name. I mean, like, what an asshole, right? So Wolf is great. They always say, like, don't react. I don't know. Sometimes you got to react. So Wolf writes, hey, man, they can kick me off the tour anytime they want to if it's not working out. My last name may have opened the door, but doesn't keep me here. And it certainly doesn't help me write, record, sing, or play the songs for me either. I'm the one doing that. So I kindly suggest you eat my entire ass.
well, that's rock and roll, right? That's a good response.
It is. And the best part is because Wolf posted that exchange on his Instagram, and then Guns N' Roses responded. Don't expect to be off the tour anytime soon.
And he shouldn't be. He was good.
And I had read that Axl, like I saw an interview or something with him online where he got to meet Axl and said, what a sweetheart Axl was and how much Axl, really liked his first single. That was nice to read too. But yeah, it was great seeing him out there. I think he gets a lot of hate because, I mean, he wasn't an original member of Van Halen and he was on those last tours. But from what I've read, I don't think those last tours would have happened if it wasn't for Wolfgang. Everyone says he's the guy who could always get his dad out to do stuff. So we might not have had those shows and those tours without him.
You're absolutely right. So I was disappointed I didn't get to see Smashing Pumpkins, and that's why I kept the tickets. I was very happy seeing Wolfgang. So
Agreed.
You guys, when you're there in the show, Eric, you're in the front. Drew, wait, no, Drew, you're in the pit.
Around.
You're what? Just wandering. So where
I was in the pit for most of the show.
Okay.
I mean, the pit, there was plenty of room to social distance, at least on Duff's side, I would say. So we can talk about that. But yeah, there was space.
Then let me ask you, how full was Comerica Park, where the Tigers play? Did you feel that it was a nice crowd?
I walked all through the place. The lower, like the field area was very full in terms of the seats that are on the field. That was all full. Lots of people standing around that clearly had a seat somewhere in the back, but were kind of standing on the field. That was full. The upper deck, maybe like 1/6 full at best. I mean, it was pretty empty in the upper deck. There, it was just a scattering of people in each section. And then the pit, I got the sense that on Slash's side, which I think most people entered, went over quite a ways, the crowd. But on Duff's side, which you kind of had to work your way around Comerica to get to that side, because most people would encounter the crowd and just stop, and his side kept filling up, and I could see that from the upper deck. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to Duff's side. And on Duff's side, there was just tons of space. I mean, the rail is right there for the stage, and you could walk right up to the rail and get on it almost over to like where the band was. Amazing. On that side. So I felt very comfortable being down there, having enough space to where I felt, safe and everything too. It was a great place to watch the show.
Did you go with anybody, or you just went by yourself?
I went solo. I got a ticket. I asked some friends if they wanted to go down, and I'm like, pit tickets are now $59. You guys might want to think about this. But no, nobody ended up going. So I thought that was kind of good anyway. I wanted to kind of be able to wander around and go where I wanted to go. And I got in early and got Eric a poster and me. And then a guy tried to pay me a lot of money for it.
The RoboCop one, right?
Yeah, it was a cool
That,
poster.
oh man, if people haven't seen that RoboCop lithograph or poster, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have two of them.
Yep. So I got two and I got them wrapped up real good in the plastic, carried them with me for the show. I'm walking past a guy and he comes running over. This is like 45 minutes after we got in the door. And he comes running over and he's like, "Is that RoboCop poster?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'll give you $100 for it right now." I'm like, "No, I can't do it. I got one, I decided I got one for my friend. I didn't say I have two in there. I didn't
Oh,
want to
wow.
get mugged.
Right?
So then he was like, "Well, I'll give you $150. And I said, "No, I can't sell it." And then he said, "I'll give you $200 right now, cash."
Wow.
It's like, "No, I can't do it." I mean, and then I heard from Eric that they were selling for like $300-400 or something on eBay.
I was getting
Oh,
messages from
wow.
people while I'm in the pit that the posters were going for 400 on eBay, and the show hadn't even started yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first place I went when I got in the venue. I got in through the express line because I didn't have any bags, and I went straight to get the posters. And people were buying them 2-3 at a time. I knew they weren't going to last. They were only 250.
That's got to be one of the. I mean, if you're a Guns N' Roses fan, this reunion tour, you're aware of the lithographs. That's been kind of like the unsung. I don't want to call it a hero. It's like they're not living, breathing things, but it's been like the unsung joy, I guess, of this tour. Collecting them. I have two myself. I could have gotten two more, but if you're right, if you're late, I don't want to go on eBay and pay triple the price. If I really wanted, I would go super early. But yeah, that RoboCop one was badass. Even the Fenway Park one, and as a Yankee fan, I was like, "This is pretty cool. This is cool."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I was
felt
happy it wasn't Tigers. I'm a White Sox fan. I don't want any Tigers posts. So I was really pleased with RoboCop.
Eric's our White Sox fan here.
that's okay. I was gonna go to when I visited Chicago. I don't think they were in the area because the Cubs were out of town. Because I think I spoke about this in the podcast. GN'R was initially supposed to play Wrigley Field when I was visiting Chicago. Then they changed the date till September. But I was like, I want to go to a Cubs game anyway. I think they were out of town. Oh, I'll go to a White Sox game. They were out of town. One of these days, I'll get the full Chicago experience. But I need to have the Detroit experience. So you're giving it to me now, a little bit of the Detroit experience.
I love Detroit. Yeah.
So where were you, I guess, when it was about to start? Because as we spoke about before, this isn't like, Wolfgang goes home, he's off and then you can take a nap. You can go home and come back and GN'R will still be hours late. It's not that case. They're on time, if not early. So were you ready for It's So Easy? Were you ready?
Well, I'd heard, 7:45 was their time on the sheet, and talking to security, they said they're going to go on right at 8, and 8 o'clock on the dot, that music started.
Precisely.
I mean, like clockwork. So yeah, there was no surprises. I've never seen that before. Like I said, I've seen them come on stage at 3:30 a.m. I've never seen them come on at 8 p.m. That was different.
Who did this? Who said the Axel after all these years? Come on. Okay. Like, how did this happen? There was always so much money at stake. Always. And
It's just wisdom with age. I mean, I think we all probably do things a lot different now that we're older than we did when we were in our 20s.
Well, that
Get
goes
tired of paying those curfew fines.
I said it before because it'll be in Doug's book, and he said it that he used to he had to know the fine amount of every city that they were in because he just knew it was going to happen, and Axel was going to be like, "Ah, whatever," The rest of the band cared, but Axel didn't care. Obviously, everybody cares now, and I think that was the case, which makes it a little interesting because we can go through the set list. And we know the set list for the most part up until now, the big changes. That I would have been really upset if I went to Hershey Park and only Hershey Park. Because if they're debuting a new song and that's the only show that they don't play it at. So I'm wondering, because they might have been a few minutes late. They had some technical difficulties. I'm wondering if that's why they didn't debut it there. So were you guys knowing the songs? were you just waiting for Absurd, or were there highlights for you beforehand? Like, how were you able to, as
Well, you
seasoned
know,
Guns N' Roses fans, as seasoned Guns N' Roses, I can say it, as seasoned Guns N' Roses fans who have been to a lot of shows, how did you kind of, yeah, just like sit there and like wait for Absurd, or were you enjoying the shows, the song by song kind of situation?
You can go ahead.
my speculation going in was that we probably weren't going to see anything too different than what Fenway and MetLife had, because this was the first show where the single had been released. So if you want people to download your new single, you're not going to do anything too earth shattering to draw attention away from the new single.
Yeah.
And then when soundcheck hit at 3 o'clock, they played it twice. It was the first song they played during soundcheck, and the first time it was instrumental. And of course, you can hear Axl in the backing vocals, where people are thinking that Axl is out there singing, and I'm telling no, that's just a backing track.
Pre-recorded.
And then the second time they played Absurd, you could hear Duff singing, not the entire song, but he was singing some of it. So I felt pretty good we were going to hear it in Detroit, because it had been played at the 2 previous shows, and now you've dropped the single and you just sound checked it twice. So I figured it's just a matter of time before it gets played in the set list.
Look at you. You're at soundcheck. You are on the field reporter. You really are. Just down in the trenches. So is that what you were? Because that's, I'm enjoying it song by song regardless. Double Talk and Jive, but everything. Welcome, Slither, I thought was fantastic at MetLife. How is it in Comerica? And again, were you just waiting for Absurd, or were you able to focus on just on the show?
Oh no, I wasn't all about Absurd. I wanted to hear it, and I was looking forward to it. But I'm going song by song. I mean, It's So Easy is my favorite song, so we start off the bat, and I know we're going to get my favorite song right off the bat. And then, it kind of almost felt to me like the up close and personal leg of the tour back in the Chinese Democracy days. And I don't know if it was because You're Crazy was a slower version and Knocking on Heaven's Door was a slower version. And, I was front and center for 2 of those shows, and this was the first time I'd been front and center since then. So it just had that up close and personal vibe with a few more thousand people with me this time.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was taking in each song I was really trying to live in the moment, because it'd been 18 months or whatever since I seen a live show. And I was like, this is special. I don't know how long live music's going to last at this moment. I hope it lasts, but I was kind of taking it in knowing, it might be a little while longer again before I see a live show. So I was really kind of living in each moment and kind of taking it all in. But yeah, there was a curiosity factor in hearing Absurd, for the first time, and it'd been a long time since I heard Silkworms live. So I was looking forward to that. And You're Crazy, that was a highlight for me. I loved hearing the slow down version there. Probably the highlight of the show though for me was Slash's Manish Boy Muddy Waters solo.
Right.
I love that song. I'm a huge fan of the group The Band, who Martin Scorsese did a movie on, The Last Waltz. Muddy Waters plays that song in The Last Waltz, so I've always known that song. And to have Slash come out and just groove over Manish Boy, that was a highlight for me for sure. I recorded that one. Maybe I'll put it up online and get taken down.
There goes your Twitter.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. That's something I haven't brought up yet, was Slash doing that. And that's something else they added special to the set list that I think
that's nice, because it's fresh, right? It's Slash doing a completely different solo than he's done on the other tours. After seeing, they haven't changed their set list up a whole lot since they've reunited. Those little changes are real highlights for me. But every time I watch Slash, I'm an Axl fanboy going way back. I was there at the House of Blues and all that. But when Slash is up there really in the zone playing, I'm reminded that I'm in the presence of an absolute guitar god. Of like at a level that few people have ever been. And that's a special moment when he just kind of gets his solo spot and gets to do that. And I don't take that for granted. That it's amazing to get to see Slash do that.
That's how I felt when I was able to finally see Van Halen with Wolfgang. Was when I was able to see Eddie. I'm like, oh my God, like I need to soak this in.
Yeah, you got to take it in, and glad you got to see it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I guess Eric, how did you feel? Like, where were you? You were in the front row the entire time. You were.
Yep. I, having that early entry, we probably got in 5 minutes before everybody else did, which is irrelevant. As long as you're in before everybody else, that's fine. And the young lady that was on the crew, she just told everybody we're going to be single file. We're going to walk. We're not going to run. And she just kind of escorted us in. So we just kind of fell where we wanted to go in our pecking order as we walked single file. So she kind of dictated the pace. I wasn't worried one bit. I was first in line, so I'm going to put the anchor out right in front of the night train air horn, and there I stood for the whole night.
You seem like, because I only see your shoulders up, but I feel like nobody was pushing you around, because you seem like you used to play football.
I did. Yeah, I played football, and I was on a bunch of young bucks. Like I said, it was cool down there. Going to gun shows on the floors in the 90s are a whole lot different experience than going, in the last 10 years. Being on the floor now, they don't oversell it. And I think they do that on purpose so that you're not packed in there like sardines. So, you're not in there too tight. Everybody's pretty cool. There were a lot of security there in the front row, and they had easy money that night. All they did was just kind of stood there and listened to the show with the band behind them. Nobody got pulled over the rail. There were no fights. At least where I could witness. I can't talk about the whole venue.
There was one I saw late in the night down in the pit, but it ended pretty quick.
Oh, did there? Okay, yeah.
I forgot to mention this when I was at the MetLife show, and this was like a fight that almost broke out in front of like the handicap seats, because that's where it happens. And this guy, it was like, this is what I like to call, maybe, I don't know if it was like this in Detroit. A lot of the Guns N' Roses dude bro fans were in New Jersey. Like the fraternity backwards hat kind of, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I welcome all Guns N' Roses fans of all ilks and types, but these are the dude bros that really, they sing "Sweet Child of Mine" in the bar, and that's all they know. They start throwing shit just to throw it, like they're done with their plastic beer. They throw it. Security tells them to stop. Like, gives them the option to stop. There's one guy who was like flipping. I don't know, he's probably in his early 20s, flipping out. Like, don't tell me what to do. His friend's trying to calm him down. Eventually calm him down, but it's still like a chip on his shoulder because he's a dude bro and he had his masculinity attacked. He's like, and he turns back to the security guards, fucking Nazis, calling them Nazis. The security guards at MetLife Stadium, they're Nazis apparently. And then he's still cursing everything, and he almost gets in a fight with his older fan in front of him. And me, I don't put up with that. I wait the security guys over. I'm like, and I point him out. Then they swarm. They got him at it. He went willingly, because it was all liquid courage. But
all right.
Oh my God. So yeah, other than that, it was again all good vibes. So two things before I lose them, because I want the fight story. But Eric, even if it's brief,
it's brief. Well, I will say, I was there wearing my House of Blues shirt, and there was one other guy there wearing that shirt, and so we chatted a little bit. I was like, "Hey, House of Blues," and then him and his buddy were up in the pit, and all of a sudden, people started pushing each other around or something. The guy with the House of Blues shirt pulled his buddy out, hauling him to the exit. The guy was like swearing and kind of pulling around. But they left very quick, and security almost looked like they were going to chase him down. I don't know what happened. I just caught the tail end of it.
All right. We'll catch it on World Star maybe. The other thing I don't want to lose, Eric. Do you have a fun story of being on the floor in the 90s? How you can compare it to, you're talking about now enjoying yourself, able to kind of move around with the young bucks. Is there a GN'R GA story from your youth that sticks out to you?
The first time I saw GN'R, I was 19. It was 1991, and Slave to the Grind was about to break, but it hadn't broke yet, and the Illusions weren't going to come out to the fall. So it was at the Toledo Speedway. So not only was I finally going to see Guns N' Roses, but I had to cross state lines to do so. And you couldn't walk on the ground. I'd never been at Toledo Speedway before, but it had rained all day, and it's like, by the time the gates opened, that's when the heavens opened up and the sun came out, and there was no more rain. But I was probably in the middle of the venue by the time we got in to where we were going to be for the night. and you couldn't even touch the floor. It was like walking on a sea of beer cans. So every time you took a step, you were stepping on aluminum. You know, it wasn't flat ground. Every time you shifted your weight, you know, the crunching of aluminum happened. So it was just the most bizarre show from that standpoint, where there was, and you know, I was 19, I couldn't drink. There was just so much alcohol consumed at that show, and so much litter on the ground that you couldn't even touch the ground and be on flat ground if you wanted to. There were just so many cans down there, and I've never been to a show since that was like that one. So that was the most bizarre part about being on the floor at a 90s gun show, was the, you know, just the footing of that one.
Somewhere it's making me think of that classic commercial with the Native American with the tear coming down his eye. He's looking at all the pollution. That's me right now. So going back to today's gun show, we're all waiting for Absurd. You know what the beginning sounds like. Maybe if you're a generic Guns N' Roses fan, you still don't even know what it is. Like you're the dude bro GN'R fan. You guys know Paradise City, you know Welcome, that's it. What was the reaction? What was your reaction? Take us through your experience of Absurd being played, and now it being an official song for the first time.
Yeah,
I thought it was great live, and to hear, I mean, I heard Slash's touches on it on the studio, because you know, 1201 the other night, I downloaded it on iTunes when, you know, after that MetLife show when it said it was coming out. So I heard it on studio, but to hear Slash play it live from the version that it was before, just to have him get his hands in the pot, so to speak, I think makes that song that much stronger. And I was talking about Absurd with the, you know, the kids around me, and you could tell they knew about it, but you know, that wasn't why they were there. They weren't really looking forward to it like I was. Right. So again, I'm kind of looking around at how people are taking it, and they were getting into the song too now that you can hear it live and see how the band is into it and it's fresh and new for them. You know, I think the people around me, and I can't see what's going on behind me, I can only see to my left and my right. I think it had a good response in the front row.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd agree. I had a pretty good view of the overall crowd when that song finished up anyway, and people were cheering really loud for it. I mean, as they were for a lot of the songs, but it wasn't like things went quiet and people were kind of giving it a polite clap. It was relative. I mean, I would say probably surprisingly enthusiastic from where I was standing for a song that was brand new that they probably hadn't heard before and doesn't really sound like old Guns N' Roses. The crowd itself was pretty enthusiastic about it. And Axl, I will say on that song, something that stood out to me as I was watching it, and I think it's one of the reasons probably why they picked that as the single, as the first. I mean, there's some other songs we know that they could be putting out right now with Slash and Duff. But that song, Axl's voice is so suited for his current voice. He doesn't have to really reach, you know, those high notes and do all of that. He can just go out there and have fun. And it's a pretty hard rocking song. He gets to be in his just natural voice doing it, very comfortable for his vocals. And I could see everyone having a good time with that. So yeah, that was cool.
I did hear somebody behind me yell, "I can't believe I just heard Down on the Farm." They were totally wrong. I got a kick out of that.
I can see that confusion to a degree.
Good guess, kid. Good guess. Without, you know, kind of same vocal styling, but quite different. But that's it. I like how your thought process there, Drew, because it is right in Axl's current wheelhouse vocally.
It was very, you could see the comfort in him singing through that. He's having fun. You know, he doesn't have to strain to hit something. And for you're putting out a new single, you want to go out and represent it well on stage. And that song was just suited for him to go out and do it and sound exactly like the album. You know, like it was really, really good sounding live. Yeah.
Don't let me ask you guys. It was brought up by our buddy Matthew Wake, who writes for AL.com, and he seemed to be bothered by it, and I wasn't. You alluded to it before, Drew. The Axl screams in that song are pre-recorded.
Yeah.
He's singing the whole thing. He's shouting. Actually, I got a tweet today and from journalist David Wild who put it well. He's like, it reminds me of Johnny Rotten from Pill. You know, it's kind of like that vocal styling. But
yep,
he he's not. So he's singing, but there's that scream, and I'm thinking like that's just like it could be an effect. Like it doesn't even register as something that should bother me. It clearly bothers Matt Wade.
Oh,
So
I
is
mean,
that something that bothers you? That's a pre-recorded. Those are pre-recorded short. There's short screams throughout. Absurd. So how do you feel?
and they're almost just like, almost just effects. I mean, the way
Right.
that sounds, I mean, you can tell, I believe that that's Axel doing that, but it has more of an effect vibe. For him to get into that and then get back to the Johnny Rotten sort of thing, that would be pretty difficult, I think. Although I will say, I think I just saw an interview with Wolfgang where he was talking about like pre-recorded effects and how unrock and roll they are, and they're terrible and all this. And I was like,
I thought the same thing. I was like, ew. I mean, it's not that it's a pre-recorded effect, kinda, but that's how I feel.
It's so minor. I can't. You've got to be pretty hardcore to get upset over that. I mean, if the main vocals of the song or something are pre-recorded, that's a problem. But that's like a little effect in the background that, doesn't bother me.
Right, for one song in the set, I mean, if it was every song, then maybe fans would get a little more upset. But it's one song, and it's a 20-year-old song, so they might have done it that way if they played it more after the House of Blues and those. If it was in the Chinese Democracy Tour, it could have been an effect then. Just because it is in 2021 doesn't mean it might not have been back then either.
I agree with both of you guys. I knew I had you both on for a reason. And something else, another thought I had. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Slash's idea to put out this song, given the lyrical content and given what you look at his social media. I mean,
yeah. You look at his Instagram, it fits right in, doesn't it?
He grams. I don't want to say it. I'm a guy. I don't like saying pussy for my guys. Like I don't know if it's a song I can sing along to, even though I like it. They just doesn't have the same. I feel weird saying it.
Well, it's so Guns N' Roses because that's probably the least radio-friendly song that they have right now that we know of, and they don't care. And that's always been one of the appeals when I was 16 years old. Was this was a group they didn't care what they did.
It's not one of my favorite songs ever or anything, but I love the balls or guts, whatever you want to call it, of Guns N' Roses to take a 20-year-old song and put it out, the craziest 20-year-old song. I mean, this is almost my world level kind of out there crazy, and take it and put it out as their first single. It's something that can't be played on the radio, at least not without a lot of censorship. And like that, it's just, I love this huge brand that it still has this kind of punk rock mentality to it in terms of just not caring. I mean, there's a lot of other songs they could have put out as a single that were a lot more marketable. I like the guts that it took to put this out as a single, I would say. Even though it's not my favorite Guns song, but I like that about Guns N' Roses.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, it may not be my favorite. While I do enjoy it, I have listened to it several times already. But it's just the balls of it. It's perfect. It's like it was on nobody's list. Like nobody, like everyone's trying to guess.
There were lists, but that wasn't on it. Yeah.
Well, you saw it. It was I think it was one of the listeners of mine sent me. I think it's going to be Eric, who's been on a couple times. He's going to do a review of the Fargo show happening. He sent me maybe he found it on Reddit, but it was a leaked set list, and that's what I was following along with when I went, thinking it was going to be real, and it might have been real because it said Absurd on it, and at the time nobody heard of that. They're like, oh, maybe it's Silkworms because that's a lyric in it. Oh, and let me ask you guys, because I didn't know this either. And again, if you haven't told, by this episode, my brain isn't always working properly. That pussy full of maggots, again, I don't feel comfortable saying it, is silkworms. That's what it is. Maggots, worms, silk is I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I put that together before or not, but
all right.
But then, of course, the interesting thing about that song now, of course, is the removal of the chorus, right? So the chorus had been in there. The chorus really would not play well, I think, in 2021. And I wonder if that's some of the thought that went into this, that it was a bit much, but so they've got Axl saying absurd instead. But in my mind, the chorus is kind of going.
What was it with a bitch like you, right?
Yeah,
But it's like, it doesn't make, to me, because people have said that it doesn't make sense given the content of It's So Easy. It's, unless that's like an established song, people don't care.
right.
And also within the song, you have pussy for long maggots.
I know.
You have like a terrible lyric anyway. So, sorry, I
Maybe it's just the
can't
fact
say
that
it.
it's repeated over and over in the chorus. I know. Or are you grandfathering in some of this old stuff? I don't know what that is, but yeah.
I worked for a radio station once, and I don't know, maybe because they were lowbrow, like it was not a hot. I can't believe they got away with this. If the FCC was listening, whatever. But it was won't get fooled again, like, or no, who are you? And the lyric, oh, who the fuck are you?
Yep.
And then when I started working there, I'm like, there's a curse in that song, right? Oh, we've been playing it like that for 20 years.
It's grandfather.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. It's grandfather. Exactly. So it's cool. So where do we go from, I guess, absurd? How are you for the rest of the show? Take us through the rest of the, because you guys didn't meet up at all. I guess.
No, although Eric had texted me at one point, and this hasn't been mentioned, it was hot. I mean, really, really hot in that stadium. And I felt for him because he's down there in the front row, has not had any, and he was like, boy, enjoy some water for me or something. So I was like, I'm getting Eric some water. So I did go and I bought a water. They made me pour the thing out when I got to the floor, put it in a cup. I take it down to the front row to the security over to the side. And I'm like, all right, there's a guy in a White Sox hat down there in the middle. He looks too old to be there. take this down. Take this down and make sure he doesn't get dehydrated on me and pass out. So I did get Eric some water. So
that was funny because I put my glasses on, I'm reading my phone, all of a sudden this lady puts this glass of water in my face, and all she says is, would you like some water? So I'm obviously going to say yes, and everybody around me is like, where's our water?
Right.
I knew like 5 minutes later when he
texted
me that he had bought it for me, but it's like, yeah, why did I get water and nobody else did? That was kind of bizarre.
It's at a bar. It's like you're at a bar. It's from the gentleman in the back, like you're showing your hand. It was me. Sorry, go ahead. True.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I jotted down some notes of some things I thought were interesting. At one point, Axl said their motto up on stage was to be like Frank. I remembered that, so noted that. I can't remember what that was, what part of the show that was, but I think that was right before he got it. He talked about Rumble, the clip that plays, or the music that they played actually before they go into Jungle, and said, I'm going to give you a little history lesson. The importance of this song. This is the song that invented the power chord. And so that's, why we're playing it. It was in Pulp Fiction, and he got through all of that, and then ended with, okay, you can all say, thank you, Axl. Now you can fuck off.
I got a part of that on video, and I won't be posting it on Twitter, but I didn't get the first part of Axl saying that about thanking Frank, but I did get that last part, and I did record Rumble. And when it led into Jungle after that, that was the first time I'd seen Axl get mad, like since 2009.
I took a note of that too. I want to hear your thoughts on that, Eric.
Okay.
And what you saw.
Slash was having problems with his guitar during Jungle, and he had a guitar tech working behind him during the song, and somebody else had recorded the video because I just watched it last night. So you can see the tech working on Slash, and then you can hear Axl say it's he's unplugged. So Axl goes to his Axl mic where he can talk to everybody, not let the fans hear.
Could you hear him talking on that too?
I couldn't hear him, but
I could hear him. That was weird. Well, you tell the rest of your story. I'll follow up.
Okay, because his body language and his facial expressions, you could tell that he was ticked at whoever the techies were, that here we are having another technical issue. But then when he's back on stage under the lights, he's not letting that affect his performance. As a matter of fact, he makes some comment about that I'd have to go back and watch the video.
Like he's able to kind of just put on a showman face like that, like he was out making sure everybody's having a good time, smiling. But yeah, you can finish up and I'll say what I thought I heard anyway. But.
Okay. Yeah, I'm real interested because I couldn't hear what he said. I could just see him talking to, he was looking side stage at the people on Slash's side, and he was, you could tell he was upset. And I hadn't seen him upset since somebody threw something at him in 2009. And, that he just got mad at the person that threw it at him at that one. He let it roll off his back after that, and then made a comment after the show that he hoped that guy got jumped in the parking lot for the guy that threw something at me. So. But yeah, what did you think you heard him say, Drew?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, Jungle just felt off from the beginning to me. It felt too slow. I mean, maybe that was in my head, but I felt that it started out and it just felt like it was almost in slow motion. And I know there's been some pacing issues in the past. I know with some of the songs. I don't know if that was really happening, if that was in my head. It'd be interesting to go back and listen to it. But the pacing felt slow, and then it just, things seemed off, and people seemed confused through the song, and so I missed that with Slash. But when the song ended, Axl was like off the stage, and it was very weird because I was a good distance from most of the crowd, so it was pretty quiet around me. But all of a sudden, I could hear like what I assume is like Axl's like mic to everyone on stage, but really quiet in the distance. And I don't know if it was coming from like a speaker like back behind the stage or something, but I heard Axl say something along the lines of like, everything was off on that one, like that was screwed or whatever. Like he was really upset, but I could hear him saying that, and it didn't sound like it was coming through the big speaker. I don't know, like I could hear it though, but so quiet. So I don't know exactly what he said, but he was very upset. But when he came out on stage, it wasn't like the old days where he just trashed things. I mean, I even saw that back in the joint when the whole band threw their guitars and smashed everything and left on the 29th back in 2001. He came back out, everything was good. But he was very upset, and it was bizarre to hear that through some small speaker back on the stage or something. It was weird.
It's interesting to get that perspective of it, because when I did the Hershey Park review with all those technical issues with the mic cutting out, and I saw that Axl would always go back, kind of go back and grab the mic. He's talking because there must be some sort of switch that goes from the PA to communicate to his guys. And however the system is rigged back there, there might be a speaker back there, or maybe it goes right to a headphone, or. So it's interesting.
I shouldn't have heard it probably, but I was just distant enough from the crowd. It was pretty quiet. I was near the barricade and there were no people there. And it was just very soft in the background. I heard him just going off on the crew or whoever about that song.
You broke the fourth wall.
Frustrated.
You broke the fourth.
It was the acoustics coming off the Ty Cobb statue that bounced it right to you.
It was something. It just carried perfectly from wherever that was, whatever little speaker that was coming out of.
And I get it. As somebody who's done live radio, as somebody I think it's usually people yelling at me rather than me doing the yelling, when technical things go wrong. And especially, it's live and a lot of pressure, but it sounds like he handled it the same way he handled the Hershey Park. He's just a pro. You're allowed to get frustrated.
Yep.
You like to think they have top of the line sound people. So it's frustrating. Yep. I can only imagine.
Well, they got to be rusty too. I mean, it's show number 4 on the tour, and we know what happened at your Hershey show. And Axl didn't have the mic problems in Detroit. We had an issue with Slash, and no matter how good you are at your job, if you don't get repetition, you're not going to be.
Nobody's done it for 18 months, right? Like you take yourself out of something for 18 months, you jump back in, it's going to be a little rusty. But I did want to say, like, I did appreciate from Axl that he cares. I mean, he didn't lose his mind. He didn't come out and ruin the show over it. He didn't let it show on stage. But he is, all these years later, and he could have just been like, whatever, we got through it. He still cares so much about the quality of one song and how it's performed out there that he's that frustrated, backstage about it not being perfect. That's the Axl. I like that perfectionist Axl. So like, and he didn't lose his cool. He was a pro on it, but he was frustrated and voiced it. So,
and I'm sure most of the crowd probably didn't even notice.
There's no way anyone heard that but me. That voice thing. And Eric, you saw a little bit of the frustration going on stage, but I don't think most of the crowd picked up on it.
No, when Axl
probably heard junk on it, was great.
Duff was just playing that bass line over and over and over again, and people were digging that. They thought they were getting an extended version of Jungle.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. Speaking of Duff, what do you think of him doing the Stooges cover?
Oh, I like that a lot. That was fresh. There's nothing wrong with playing Attitude and having a gun song, but just to have something that was different. And I hate to keep going back to Slash, but it's really cool to hear Slash play on that song as well.
Yeah.
Duff's vocals were great on it. I thought that was a good addition to the set, and they should keep it this whole leg anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might get a different reaction from a couple of people. It's their first show; they just want to hear Guns N' Roses songs. For a couple of people that've been to like 20 shows, those moments stand out. Like that's awesome. It's fresh. It's new. You live for that after you've seen that many shows. It kind of brings new life to the concert. I had a blast. I love that Duff gets a solo set. He should continue getting a solo set. He and Slash both. Those were both highlights.
Right on. So how many shows have you both been to separately and maybe together? If you can answer that, I'm just curious.
It's a good question. Well, together might be a little easier. I don't know. Most of the Detroit shows we probably both been at. We both went pretty much together to the Vegas reunion shows. So the first shows, I mean, outside of the Troubadour with Axl and Slash back, I was there with Eric.
Hall of Fame. Went to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we went to the Hall of Fame together. Yeah. We've I mean, I was at 2006. What was the New York venue where they first started out? The club?
Oh, Hammerstein Ballroom.
Hammerstein. Yeah, I went out to that one. But yeah, Eric, you didn't make it to the Hammerstein ones, right?
I had tickets on Mother's Day, and the first member of the ex-wives club didn't handle that very well, so I ended up flipping them.
Yeah. So for me, I've seen about 20 shows, but I was at House of Blues, both the joint shows at the end of 2001, some 2002 shows, the first Hammerstein show in 2006, the Hall of Fame induction. Kind of a lot of what I think are kind of like the opening kind of moments, highlights of the last 20 years. I tried to get there and get in the front row.
I mean, I hate to ask this because you just named like a lot of iconic shows, but where does this show rank for you? I mean, I maybe that's not a fair question. Like, yeah,
that's
maybe better.
It's hard because I tried to think about that too, and my kid just asked me to rank all my baseball stadiums that I'd been to because I just crossed Camden Yards off, and that was a hard process. So I had that thought myself, I've done 15 shows that were actually Guns, and I've seen Axl and AC/DC and Slash with Miles and Duff on his own and Adler on his own, but actual Guns I've been 15, and I was trying to think, well, where does this show fall? And it probably just somewhere in the middle. It was a great show. It was a fantastic show, but when you've been to a lot of relevant ones, those are probably going to have a little more weight than this one did. And there was nothing wrong with this show at all. I'll get tickets again when they come back to Michigan, and as long as they're still touring, and I told myself, will I be able to handle the front row this time? And I felt great yesterday, which surprised me. So
nice. Okay.
Now try it again.
Izzy and Steven come back, I'll get back in the front row.
Okay. There we go.
But for me, probably somewhere in the middle. I mean, some of those shows, the House of Blues show, those joint shows in 2001, Hammerstein, those were next level kind of magical, because it was really like no one knew what was going to happen. I remember at Hammerstein, nobody had any idea who the new guitarist was going to be.
Right.
And we're asking security, and they're like, oh yeah, we saw him, we're not going to tell you who. And we're like, is it Slash? And they're like, we're not going to tell you, but then Ron comes out, and like everyone's like, who is this guy? which I felt bad about. We kind of judged Ron wrongly in that moment. I think he struggled a little bit that night, but when you hear what he went through to try and learn the songs and everything in a short amount of time, and of course, Ron became a total fan favorite. I'm a big fan of Ron's.
Me too. I hope we get him on the podcast one day. We'll see.
No one's ever been in members of this band. All the members that have ever been through this band, I don't think any single member has been more fan friendly than Ron was. So that I really grew to love him. But
well, shoot, Drew, and I sent Ron that message at the 2012 Up Close and Personal show. There's 4 people waiting out front. Come out and see us. Ron comes out with his guitar, and he's playing twat outside of the venue for like 4 fans.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Who else would do that?
Nobody. That's why he's not in the band anymore, I guess.
He was just a great guy, fun to watch. But no, I've never seen anybody treat fans better than him. So props to Ron. So, but yeah, for me, some of those other shows were just absolute magical moments.
I get it.
But this is in the middle of the pack.
I get it. So then I always ask this to all the fans that come on, and I don't know if this is also a fair question, given I don't know if you're living inside a movie theater, Drew, because it looks like you have a lot.
I'm in my basement. Yeah, I've got my Disney theme going. I got
okay, because I see Pirates of the Caribbean posters.
Jungle Cruise, Welcome to the Jungle Cruise.
Oh,
there you go. I'm
trying to new. Are you do you work? I mean, am I allowed to ask that? Do you work for the movies? Like, because that's a new movie.
I'm just in my basement. These are just they're light boxes. I put posters in them.
Okay.
Fun. So I've got kind of a themed out basement of just all kinds of pop culture stuff I like.
So there any what's your favorite Guns N' Roses piece of memorabilia? That's where I'm leading to. Is there a GN'R stuff that we don't see?
I can tell you a rare piece of memorabilia I have, which is at the House of Blues. I caught one of the chocolate roses from Buckethead, and I still have it, and it's preserved in a freezer. So that is as unique of a Guns N' Roses piece of memorabilia that I have.
As unique as I've heard. Absolutely. So yeah, don't oh man, you keep like post-it notes on I don't know if you live with anybody. Do not eat. Like it's tucked well away and preserved, and a 20-year-old chocolate rose from the House of Blues. Every Easter, you must get so scared that someone's gonna go in the freezer and think it's.
He's got 2 kids. If they haven't ate it now, they probably won't.
True. Oh, what about you, Eric? Do you have a favorite piece of memorabilia?
Mine's less than a month old. I would have had a different answer for you in July, but I was lucky Tommy Stinson played my backyard. So when the show was over, I had Tommy sign my Chinese Democracy vinyl, and he made it out. He said, "Thanks for having us at your house." And I thought that was really cool that he added that with his signature. So that's going to be tough to beat for a while now. That was kind of a cloud 9 night that, the Generals at my house.
That's tough to beat. That was an amazing night. Yeah,
because that's what Tommy is doing now. He's currently on tour with Cowboys. I always forget
with the Campfire.
And the Campfire. I always forget if it's with or and the Campfire.
Yeah,
with Chip.
Yeah, Tommy and Chip are just awesome. I've seen them 3 times now. With the last one in the backyard here.
And so how did that happen though? Like, because I guess he's obviously not Guns N' Roses. He's not playing stadiums. He's playing smaller places, but they have these backyard gigs. I mean, that's pretty. So
special. There was a picture of a map on Facebook, and they circled an area of the map and said, if you live here and you want the band to play in your backyard, send us a message. So pick me. So I put a little video up of what my backyard looked like, plan A, plan B, plan C, and we went with the plan A layout, and they capped the tickets at 50 people. So it's a and Tommy does that on purpose.
Show up I did a count.
There were 10 no-shows. There were 10.
I could only count 40 people, so it was 40 of us. Yeah, hanging out watching Tommy Stinson in Eric's backyard. That was an amazing night, especially being like a month or 2 ago, and we hadn't seen live music in so long. And when I got there, I pull up and Eric gets out of his car and he's like, "Oh, Tommy and Chip are just sitting on the back porch chatting with everybody right now." So, that's cool. So I went back there. It was amazing.
And Tommy Stinson used your bathroom and everything.
Yeah, so I told him he had to quit asking me. I said, just make yourself at home and go do it. I mean, I did rent a porta potty because I didn't want 50 strangers clogging up my toilet. But Tommy and Chip used the bathroom, got in the refrigerator.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't drink anymore, but one of the first things Tommy asked me was like, "Do you have any bourbon?" I told him I didn't.
And then he made a run to the store to get some.
Yeah, right? He went to the Meijer down the road. Tommy and Chip went and shopped at the Meijer at Charlotte to go get snacks and drinks.
That's brilliant. Oh, I love it.
It was a fun night. Those 2 guys are fantastic.
I mean, they're
so fan friendly.
Yeah.
My oldest kid and Chip kind of hit it off. It was kind of funny. I just got a message out of the blue the next day from Chip's wife, who I don't know, telling me how much that Chip enjoyed talking to my son.
That's
And
really
that was his
cool.
first rock concert. And I told him, I said, boy,
Wow.
the next time you go to a rock concert, they're not going to be at your house. They're not going to take pictures with you. You're not going to get autographs. You know, it's going to be a whole totally different experience the next time you go to a show.
That's very cool, though. That's special for you and your son to experience, and that's awesome because I've seen that Tommy's been offering that, and it's just very cool. And it goes to what you were saying before, Drew, about Bumblefoot being fan friendly. That was something special about that version of the band. Obviously, we're all excited to have this grand scale GN'R. We can save another podcast we have for the classic reunion, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's why whoever has been in GN'R, they've gotten the right guys. They've gotten the right dudes or girl. Now, she's still in the band. I think they've just gotten good people to be in the band.
I mean, Slash is unbelievable. Slash is my favorite guitarist of all time. At the same time, there is a seriously special place in my heart for that early 2000s lineup of Guns N' Roses and all the guys that were in that group. That's really my favorite just era lineup of this band ever. It was because it was all a mystery. You go to these shows and you didn't know what was going to happen and what they were going to play. And Axl was so passionate about the new music and so fired up and ready to prove himself. And those early shows, the early 2001 shows were just pure magic. So I love that lineup. Love Tommy.
All right. Well, we'll see if you guys can answer this this last question, or maybe you could say your mood of the day. But do you have a favorite Guns N' Roses song? I will always say, for me, and I said it earlier, I believe, November Rain. That's just me. Inspired my first tattoo on my back, my shoulder blade. I have ones that I may prefer to listen to more in a certain day. But do you have like a special song to you personally? Either.
For me, it's probably Estranged. I love Estranged. When they played that live for the first time since '93, I believe, with Slash and Axl on stage together in Vegas back in 2016. I was on the rail in front of Slash, and I recorded video of that's on YouTube somewhere. Of the front row shot of Slash playing the guitar solo in Estranged that I shot. And that was my favorite song for all those years. And then to be there in that moment, for them to go back to that song with Slash was just amazing. That was a real highlight in my Guns N' Roses concert history. Love that song.
Sure.
Yeah, Eric?
Well, I already told you it was It's So Easy.
Oh, there you go.
Sure you did.
I didn't like Guns N' Roses the first time I heard them. I remember hearing I had a job milking cows for $2.55 an hour at my friend's house, and he liked Sweet Child of Mine, and I didn't care for that song one bit that summer '88. And I had a different friend that could not stand that I didn't like Guns N' Roses, so he played It's So Easy for me, and I was like, give me more. And then I like Sweet Child now. I didn't then, but that was the song that flicked the switch for me, and I've liked it ever since.
I like that story. That's my first time milking cow story on the podcast. So
For $2.55 an hour, you can get $13 at McDonald's now. I grew up in the wrong era.
Yeah, you're too old to be on the rail, Eric. Too old.
And Sweet Child of Mine, which was news that came out there, just hit 1 billion streams.
No kidding.
Yeah. So just goes to show you, and that's why the dude bros, the dude GN'R fans say we need them. We need us, the hyper nerds that know silkworms, that are part of, used to be part of the forums, but we need the dude bros. They put their arms around each other during Patience. My fiance and I did the same thing, making fun of them. Kind of like, it's so cute. You four dude bros, the Patience. Anyway.
There's only so many of us old diehards. They've got to fill out the crowd somehow. So we welcome them there.
It's very true. All GN'R fans are welcome. So do you guys have any because I know you're just regular dudes, regular people, but do you have any like GN'R fan sites or Instagrams? Like, do you share pictures if anyone wants to follow? Anything of that nature? I figure if you have a business you just want to shout out there, for speak now or forever hold your peace.
No, if you are ever in Michigan and you see a band playing called Guns N' Posers. It might be an old me fronting a tribute band. So I've done that a few times in the past, but I haven't played in a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I was about to say I'm gonna have to go see Guns N' Posers.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the Axel. Yeah.
I do you
Old
wear
man Axel.
do you all like you? I want Axel to grow a beard. I was hoping that was one of the main
Yeah.
things. He has to grow-
Axel beard always suited Axel. I think he had a beard for a little bit back in 92, 93 or something.
Yeah. Well, that was more like he
Cool.
just didn't shave kind of beard, which is
Yeah.
fine. I know. I want him to have like a real manicured beard. I don't
Yeah.
know. Get weird with it.
Yeah,
So-
we got to get that information to him. He needs to get on that.
Right on. Well, thank you, Drew. Thank you, Eric. I feel like I was there. I feel like I was at Comerica Park.
Well, thank
So,
you for having us on. This was a lot of fun, Brando. I've listened to a lot of your shows and really enjoy them. I'm a big fan, so this is a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brando.
Thank you, Eric. And I know Eric was the one who reached out, and is what I encourage everybody to do. You know, Eric reached out on Facebook. You can do so on Instagram, on our new Twitter, Appetite, at the AFD podcast. Also email at the AFD show at gmail.com. However you want to do it. If you just want to be, if you're going to a show, as long as the shows keep happening, knock on wood, you know, if you want to do a review just like this on the podcast, just send me an instant message, a DM, as the kids say, or however Axel phrased it. It's like, I don't know how they do this internet thing now. I couldn't get quite what he said when he was teasing, saying that it was going to be downloaded at midnight.
Yeah.
But in the video, you heard me, it was my natural reaction. I heard him say, you can get it at midnight. I was like, whoa, wait, what? What? This is a real
New
thing?
music. First new music in 13 years, right? That's
Wow.
exciting.
So the energy, the fan base is obviously energized, and I think that's why it's a lot of fun to have fans like you, Drew and Eric. Come
Thanks.
on.
I can't wait for the next. I want to hear the fans who go to the
From
next
Fargo.
show and what they
Yeah.
had to say.
So we're gonna get.
I see the value in this. This is fun. I want to hear about those shows coming up.
It's gonna be interesting because we're gonna get Eric P on, who's been on a couple times before. He helped co-host with Ginger Wildheart, but the kicker is he's gonna bring on his girlfriend because it's you want to know because they're usually not. Yeah, my fiance likes GN'R, but she would never have gone to see Guns N' Roses live if it wasn't for me. So to hear her perspective is different than mine. So I want to get her perspective. If you know, it's like I'm never gonna get into Dave Matthews. I'll be dragged to a Dave Matthews show. If you want to bring me on a Dave Matthews podcast, sure. I'll be honest with you. So who knows? Maybe she hates GN'R. I doubt it, but we'll see. Anyway, so that'll be coming up for the Fargo show. Again, contact me any of the social media ways, new Twitter, and if you want to do a review. As far as upcoming guests, I have already announced Matt Sorum next month. More, I know, yeah, getting him back on the show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Very cool. He was probably, I think, one of my first interviews I did when I started to feel my quarantine here in my apartment in Queens.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a setup. I think I had him on speakerphone next to my laptop. It was shitty quality, but it was still Matt Sorum. I'm going to get him for a Zoom interview for 30 minutes.
That
So
is going to be fun.
Cool.
very much looking forward to that. So all upcoming guests, of course, another reason why you should follow on social media. That's how we announce them. That's where we announce them, and that's how you can maybe be a co-host. That's how you get questions submitted, all that fun stuff. So when are you going to see the next episode? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, you'll see it. I don't know if soon is the word.